Yes, I gave you the correct time. Actually, my favorite time of day is probably 4:30 p.m. And the reason why I like that time is because during my school days, I used to rush home to catch Tom and Jerry on regular TV, and it would start exactly at 4:30 p.m. I would get off the bus at the end of my driveway at 3:30 p.m. and I would walk. It would literally take me almost an hour to walk from the edge of my parents' driveway to my house on a rocky dirt road. So yeah, 4:30 is my favorite time. Yes, I like to be honest about setting the time correctly. Oh, it's pretty accurate actually. You know, can I just say, regardless of the accuracy of the clock, I'm having a great time adjusting these settings. This game is so cool. Oh, guys, I meant to tell you, I didn't realize my microphone was off on the last video. I completely forgot that I muted my mic, so that whole Let's Play on line stream of the last video, I did not realize I was muted. But I hope you enjoyed it anyway, because it was definitely new stuff. I feel like I'm learning more about you and how you like things to be set. Yeah, it's good to collect data, yes. I hope you're going to show me some more new content, because I want more new content, because I'm really enjoying this game. I wish we had more sliders, but we're going through all the sliders I have. Perhaps I can invent some new sliders to gather new data on you. Yeah, that'd be nice. Shouldn't be too hard. Yeah, let me whip a couple ones up. Should be ready by the next time you boot up the game. Oh, yes! That's just telling me that there's more content to explore. I love this game. Alright guys, this is Butterflies43. Welcome back to the Stanley Parable, the Ultra Deluxe Edition. And now, we're beginning where we left off, where they're calling this the Stanley Parable 2. I'm really excited. Let's check the settings to make sure. Camera sensitivity, let's turn that up a little bit. Language on, subtitles large. Very large. It's very small. Let's just do large. Opacity, let's make it a little bit darker. Reticle. Okay, let's go back. Alright, let's begin this, guys. I'm so excited. This is the Stanley Parable 2. This is so cool. I hope this is, like, really worth it, guys. This is so cool. I love it how every time you boot the game, it continues where you left off, and it actually remembers you. It's really cool. Guys, I definitely highly recommend that you guys download this game and play it, because they've added so much to it. Alright, let's start, guys.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in. as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Okay, so the narrator's getting more dramatic. I like that. It's much less annoying. Alright, let's see what happens.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Okay. So, it's just a little bit different. It's slightly different. There's balloons everywhere.
Stanley felt the bucket calling to him, begging him to pick it up.
The
Why
bucket.
was he not doing it?
Where is the bucket?
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Where's the bucket at? Hey, hello. Hang on, let me get on my mobile so I can see if who's texting me. Welcome to the live stream. Is that you, Gia? Let me see. Just give me a second here. Give me a second. Let's see. Welcome to the stream. Okay. I don't see you. Are you hiding? I don't know. Whoever you are, welcome to stream. Alright, so. Is it something about a bucket? Where is
Yet there was not a single person here either.
Did I
Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Must have forgotten my bucket. The broom closet. My bucket in
Stanley
here?
stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
Got back on track.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Starting to wonder if this is going to be any different. Oh, this is different.
You found one of them. One of the miniature Stanley figurines. Remember, no reward for collecting all of these, only the intrinsic pleasure of a job well done. You can't buy that sort of happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So, I implore you to savor each and every moment you come across one of these beautiful figurines.
Yeah, they're kind of cool. Money in the morning, money in the evening, money for breakfast, Mooney Crisp. So that's different. Definitely different. Okay. Slightly different. Let's close that. Oh, that's locked. So I can't get in there. Anything behind the desk here? No, I don't see anything.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, Unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him, and so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845.
Okay,
But of
so
course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
4, 5.
Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
So I wonder if this is going to be any different. Oh, there's another one.
Another miniature Stanley figurine.
Yay.
This, you know, there really must be a snappier name for these things. What about mini stands? Stanley
that.
figs.
Mini stands.
What about Stanlerines? Yes, I think I like that. Another Stanlerine under your belt.
Okay, Stanlerines. I like that. Alright. Okay, so this one, there's no escape room. Oh, maybe it's downstairs. I hope they change this, because this... They don't change it, it gets monotonous. So far, it's slightly different.
Descending deeper into the building,
Wonder where my
Stanley
bucket's
realized
at.
he felt a bit peculiar.
I collected
It
a
was
bucket
a
last
stirring of
video.
emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Whoa.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Let's trick him again.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
He's talking differently.
The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Okay, so I did this last time. Let's try it again. See if it changes anything. It might be the same.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. And so he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
So if I actually die here, then that's different. Yep, it paused.
"Farewell, Stanley," cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Okay. So far it's about the same.
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
This was the same crap I dealt with last time, so just need to find my exit. Because I've already gone through this.
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free. Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Turn off your PlayStation. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let...
I died. I don't think turning off the PlayStation is gonna help. Okay, so it's probably gonna reset me to the beginning. There's gotta be something new that I haven't seen yet. The Stanley Parable 2, so maybe there's a bucket I'm supposed to pick up? Okay, so I'm back here. Where's my bucket? I'm supposed to have a bucket somewhere.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Yeah, there has to be a bucket around here. Oh, here's my bucket. I forgot my bucket.
Stanley picked up the bucket.
Yay! I knew I forgot something. Okay. My bucket. This is my bucket. I got my bucket.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Okay, what happens if I do this?
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be.
What's in there? Employee lounge.
And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? Yes, Stanley thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was. How insightful the bucket turned out to be. No, never mind. The bucket was wrong.
Bucket's
Stanley
wrong.
took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
I did that last time. What if I go over here? Yeah, see, I didn't go in here last time. This is different.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else.
Yeah,
The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go
this-
to the cargo lift.
Definitely different. And I got my bucket. Okay, what do I do here? Just get on it? Ah,
Good.
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
my bucket.
In here.
Said the bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
What's up here? I can't get in there. Whoa. Oh shit.
Now pick up the phone.
Said the bucket.
Pick up the phone and it will take us back home where we can go about life together.
Why should I? What if I don't pick it up? I don't want to pick it up. Yeah, what if I don't pick it up? It's just the Matrix, and I have to go get out of the Matrix. It looks like they force you to pick it up. How long can I wait? Fine, let's pick it up. Is this going to take me back?
This is the sad story of a man named Stanley and his bucket. Once upon a time, I gave Stanley a bucket because I thought he was lonely and could use a friend. And then, very distressingly, he began to believe the bucket could speak to him.
Okay, it's different. Oh, now I can't click on anything. Interesting. Oh, there we go. Is this my home? Oh, my bucket. Pick it up. Hello, Stanley. It's me, your bucket. To take me to work with you.
The Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket was merely meant to provide the comforting glow of companionship. It doesn't literally talk and give you orders. Whatever Stanley is hearing the bucket say to him is just in his head.
Okay. Where'd my bucket go? Am I wearing it on my head? What? Am I stuck? Oh. Press to make me back home with you.
Lately, I've been concerned
weird.
about him. Wouldn't you be concerned as well? To see him delusional like this, obsessing over an inanimate metal object? I want to say something to him, but I don't know how I can convince him. I don't know if he'll listen to me.
Press triangle to go back to work. Interesting.
Oh, I'll try anyway. Stanley, can you hear me? Listen to me. It's just a bucket. It can't think. It can't talk. All it will ever truly do for you is effectively transfer a liquid from one location to a different location. That's it. It doesn't do anything else.
Don't listen to the loud man. Press circles. Hey, I'm
You
home.
see, he's not listening. He's still taking orders from the bucket. You know, once upon a time it was me he took orders from. Me he trusted and listened to. Now all he cares about is his awful bucket. This stupid hunk of metal.
Oh, now I can't get it. Oh, there it is. Press ignore anyone in your life except for me.
It's sad, but I suppose he doesn't need me anymore. From now on, he's just going to cling to this bucket, this cold, empty bucket, this sort of shiny bucket. Well, I'll give it this. The bucket does have a nice shine to it.
You believe I'm real, don't you, Stanley? Press...
Yes, I suppose on closer inspection that it doesn't quite look like your average hardware store bucket. It's just a little more, what am I trying to say? Sturdier, more capable of transporting liquid. Like it would be better at moving an amount of water from one room to another. Oh my God, what am I saying? Better at carrying water from room to room. It's a bucket. It's literally just a bucket. Why do I feel some need to point out the ways in which it's so much more than just a regular bucket? Oh no. I'm having feelings. For the bucket. Oh, no. What's going on? Why do I want to be with the bucket? Hear what the bucket has to say. Do anything it asks. What's wrong with me? I don't understand. Perhaps, if I had the bucket, this would be less confusing. Yes, the bucket could tell me what to do in this troublesome situation.
Stanley, give me the bucket. Give it to me. Give me the bucket, Stanley. I need it. Give it to me now. Give it, or I'll...
Never. The bucket is mine. Go back to work, Stanley. Oh. Looks like it reset. Interesting. Now, what would happen if I go to the office with the bucket? Like the boss's office? Probably the same. Oh, great. I'm back here again. Uh-oh, there's no bucket.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Where's my bucket?
No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
What about my bucket? Where's my bucket? There it is.
Stanley lifted the bucket into his arms, and a wave of comfort rushed over him. Stanley pressed the bucket upon every little thing in the office. Nothing responded to the bucket's touch, but it did little to discourage Stanley's belief in the magic of the bucket. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Okay, see what happens here. Got the bucket with me. Still can't open these doors. There will be a reward for finding them all. Oh, the Stanlerines. No, they're lying. They said there wouldn't be any reward. Uh-oh, someone spilled the coffee. How can you tell if you spotted one? What makes them float in the air? Who took these pictures of them? It's funny. Can we do it? The red room? 416. Shut the frick up. Maybe we are the collectibles. That's funny. Weird spinning figurines. Trust the completionist instinct. Why wouldn't they tell us something will happen? This investigation in this room, they feel pointless, to be honest. Huh. Mission status. A large room, lots of boxes, stairs, something to do with stairs. Somewhere, both red and blue. This is some kind of game. Must be a point to this. Gotta collect them all. 5 there be. Just take it from me. Huh. Stop kidding yourselves. I want them so much. I want to go home. Who are you? There will be cleaning of this wall required. Lies. That's funny.
Oh, Stanley, can you feel it? The broom closet. It wants the bucket. You can feel that, can't you? The aura of jealousy? It's as clear as day. This broom closet believes it deserves the bucket. I can really feel it now. It's a bucket. It belongs in a broom closet. That's what the broom closet is trying to say here. It's supposed to go with the other cleaning supplies. Good for you, Stanley. Don't give in. Don't hand over the bucket. I know how hard it must be, given the pressure that the broom closet is putting on your shoulders right now, but you have to be strong. This is your bucket. This is your companion and lifelong friend. You can't hand it over. Oh, no. We're getting into name-calling now, it seems. Is this how low the broom closet has sunk, that it has to resort to this stream of petty insults simply in order to get you to hand over the bucket? Stanley, I never liked this broom closet for a variety of reasons, but even this is worse than I had imagined. And wait, now the broom closet has the gall to imply that you and the bucket are not truly deep and lasting friends? That your relationship is purely superficial and convenient? That your life is so banal and meaningless that you'd feel the same sort of kinship towards any inanimate object which happened to lay in your path in an even partially enticing manner? Well, I never.
Go on, Stanley. Lay into it. Really tell the broom closet off for its demeaning comments. Expand on the wide variety of experiences you and the bucket have shared together. Go through each of them point by point. Share your journal entries detailing the rich emotional landscape of your feelings for the bucket as they have changed and evolved over the years.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Okay, let's go downstairs. Oh no, I don't want to go through this again. Why not?
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then, something
crazy.
occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. He looked down at the bucket in his arms. Am I crazy? He asked the bucket. The bucket returned his gaze, but said nothing at all. That's strange, Stanley thought. Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom for me in difficult times such as these. He held the bucket close, yet felt none of its familiar reassurance and comfort. And that's when Stanley realized, this isn't my bucket. It's just a normal, everyday bucket. Someone else's bucket, perhaps. How did I end up with someone else's bucket? This is all terribly wrong. Surely no good would come from this. Who knows what sorts of bizarre hallucinations Stanley might experience without the psychologically grounding presence of his bucket.
Where's my bucket?
Indeed. Now he noticed that the rooms were repeating, which was, of course, very odd.
You took my bucket.
Now he felt himself floating off the ground. Oh, gracious, he exclaimed. Without my bucket, I've gone truly mad. Where is it? I must find it. Far off in the distance now, he heard it, calling to him.
Stanley! Stanley, it's me, the bucket.
Could it truly be? He rushed forward from room to room,
What the
passing
heck?
by one bucket after the next. None of them were his. None of them were his special bucket.
Come to me, Stanley. Find me.
He had to find the bucket. He had to return to his old friend. It was the only way to truly restore his sanity. And then suddenly, he froze dead in his tracks. He knew where the voice of the bucket had been coming from. The real bucket was inside of him all along. It was incredibly painful. Stanley doubled over in agony and blacked out.
Oh man. Okay.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
Oh yeah.
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, picked up her bucket of comfort and security, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular
It's
day,
the bucket
her walk was
ending.
interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town, talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Right away, she knew what the problem was. This man had no bucket. Of course he'd gone mad, ranting and raving about a narrator describing all of his actions and how everything is predetermined and free will is an illusion and it's all just a video game. It could all have been prevented if only he'd taken his bucket with him. Perhaps he didn't even realize he'd forgotten his bucket at home in the first place. How cruel the world can be, Mariella thought, and she hugged her own bucket even tighter. But of course, she had no time for this. There were a myriad of confusing problems she would soon have to confront at work, for which her bucket would provide absolute guidance and total clarity on everything. Heck yes, she thought to herself, my life kicks ass. And she backflipped all the way to work.
Backflipped? That was different. Slightly different, but kind of funny and cringy at the same time, right? So far, the Stanley Parable 2 is not quite as I expected. It's just repeating a lot of the same crap. Alright, where's my
All of
bucket?
his co-workers were gone. What
Got
could
to
it
have
mean?
my bucket.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. The confusion and the chaos all seemed to melt away as Stanley embraced the bucket.
Got my bucket.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Yes. gonna beat you, narrator, before you even say anything. Need to collect these. We got.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Oop. Oh, this is different. To be rich, is it a crime to commit crimes? Isn't it rich? What a life it would be to have to pick just one. Interesting. Riddle me this. Let's see. Ah, I can go in here. It's probably still fake. Dancing with the bucket. Weirdo. Who has a fake elevator? What was the code
Stepping
again?
into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce, but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
So that's what he says if you put the code in before he even tells you. I didn't see any figurines in here. Man, that's dark. Okay, so last time I went downstairs, but it was without the bucket, so...
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine.
The bucket is here, Stanley. The bucket is with you, Stanley.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
Got my bucket. Everything's gonna be
The
fine.
lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
I'm waiting for something different, like really different, you know? That cargo thing was interesting, but it didn't last very long.
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine. Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind.
To bucket or not to bucket? That is the question.
No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it.
His own life in someone else's control? Never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket. But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world.
Turned it off. Turned it on last time. Twice.
Stanley and the bucket waited in blackness. Was it over? Yes, they had done it. Stanley and the bucket had defeated their greatest and darkest enemy, freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind control machine. Freedom was now mere moments away. Excitedly, the two of them began to discuss the kind of life they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller skate. Stanley wanted to sneeze in every country on Earth. Both of them wanted to begin watching a movie, any movie, but then stop it halfway through and begin watching it in reverse from the end. True, it was a simple life they envisioned, but it was one they'd lived together, with one another to lean on, to trust, to support, and to...
What?
What? Wait. What was happening?
The door stopped.
Why had the door stopped?
That's different.
Was Stanley and the bucket not about to be freed?
Uh-oh.
An unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty, until finally the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the bucket to leave. Even the facility itself recognized the incredible calming presence of the bucket, needed
closing.
the soothing warmth of the bucket. Go to any lengths not to part with the bucket.
Oh, no.
No. Stanley can't leave this place. Not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms. Not while this building has anything to say about it. Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room. But at least he has the bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to himself. As long as I have my bucket with me, right? I'll be okay, won't I? Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out.
Can't see anything. Alone in the dark with his bucket. Well, that was different. Now I want to see what happens when I turn it on. Alright.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room.
Warmth spread through Stanley's arms. With the bucket in his arms again, he was home.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Extra content. Come on, guys. I want extra content. He's not saying anything.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Okay, let's turn it on this time. That's the same thing.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Alright, so this time I'm going to turn on the mind control machine and see what happens. Maybe we'll get a different outcome on that one.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
Just trick the narrator.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death.
Yeah, I'm going to trick him. Just as he thinks we're going to jump.
The door behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
Aha! Turn around. I changed my mind. Me and the bucket changed our mind. The bucket and I changed our minds. Right, Stanley?
But of course, Stanley and the bucket thought better of it and realized they simply had too much to live for.
Okay.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
We're gonna turn on the mind control machine this time. Instead of turning it off, we're gonna turn it on. See what happens.
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine.
They make you all sick? I surely hope so. Don't call me Shirley. Don't call me Shirley.
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the
off.
bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket.
The bucket. Except for the bucket.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system.
Didn't see any figurines in there. Alright, let's turn this on and see what happens.
But at the last second, the bucket jumped in and pressed the button to turn on the controls. Stanley gasped in horror. Had this been the bucket's plan all along? To take over the machine and claim the power for itself? How could the bucket have betrayed him like this? Stanley was prepared to throw the bucket away in disgust when suddenly an image appeared upon the enormous screen. Birds. Silly, silly birds.
Oh.
The control buttons became active again.
That's interesting. What? Cool. We got birds.
Stanley flipped through one video of silly birds after another, and then it dawned on him. This wasn't a mind control facility at all. It was a facility for monitoring and surveilling silly birds all over the world. The mind controls were only a facade to disguise its true intentions. Had the bucket known this all along? Stanley marveled at the metal genius in his hands, the one who had pointed him towards this incredible discovery. Stanley and the bucket never found freedom because they spent the rest of their lives here in this place, flipping through live streams of the silliest birds imaginable. Of all the possible paths his life could have taken, this one was surely the best. And Stanley was happy.
Yeah, I like this. Good. Oh, that's the end. That was different. Let's see, what else? Oh yeah, I didn't have the bucket with me when I went to the escape route, right? So let's try that. I want to try to hit all the endings.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors,
Where's my
he
bucket?
entered the door on his left.
Where's my bucket? My bucket was missing. What? Where's my bucket? My bucket is missing.
Oh no, no, not again. I won't be part of this. I'm not going to encourage you. I'm not going to say anything at all. I'm just going to be patient and wait for you to finish whatever it is you enjoy doing so much in this room. Please take your time.
Oh, come on. You're not gonna say anything? Come on. Come on. You know you want to say something. You know you want to say something. Fine.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Oh, wait. Here we go.
Okay, I'm going back to the name of these little Stanley figurines.
Yay,
and now I'm
one.
torn between Stanlerines and Figlies. What do you think, Stanley? What name better encapsulates the intrinsic sense of happiness that you get from seeing a small number in the corner of your screen go up by 1? Let me sit on it. I'm sure it will come to me.
How do you get Figgly? Let's go back up. Figgly. Man, I hope I didn't miss one. Okay, where is my bucket? Okay, so this is back. Yeah, we're gonna get the same crappy ending. No.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf, looking behind paintings, desperate for clues to his situation. Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music.
Oh. Where's the,
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
where's my bucket? I need my bucket. Somehow I misplaced my bucket. My bucket is missing. Hello? I do not like this. I need my bucket. I think Bennett Foddy took my bucket.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
I didn't.
Whoops. Nope. Never mind. Stanley actually got back into the elevator and went back up. Silly me. Why did Stanley do that when he knew that it would just lead back to his boss's office? Well, that's a great question. I just can't wait to find out.
Yes. I can't wait to find out either. Why oh why? I'm looking for my bucket. Where's my bucket? Give me my bucket. Give me my bucket.
Here we are, Stanley. It's your boss's office. Exactly the way it was before you got onto the elevator.
Yeah,
it's still just exactly what it is.
Not exactly.
What a decision you've made to come up here and look at the office again. This has fleshed out the plot of the story in new and fascinating ways I could have never anticipated. It's that keen eye for storytelling that you have, an incisive rapid fire of critical plot points, one after the other, weaving a rich tapestry of uncompromising narrative. Wow! I'm bolted to the edge of my seat.
What if I do... What's my number? 724? What if I do 5, 4, 8, 2? One, 2, 3, 4. Okay. I thought it would do something. Maybe it's another code that does something. They should have put that in there.
Incredible. Now he's getting back into the elevator and going down again. Ladies and gentlemen, how does he keep coming up with all of this?
How do I come up with this? How do I do? Alright.
Surely this time Stanley will walk forward into the spooky corridor, won't he?
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Where'd my bucket go?
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
I'm probably gonna get the same old ending because I don't have my bucket with me.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed.
I can't go back.
Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
427, that's me. 427.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machine...
Probably gonna get the same ending. I don't know. See what happens. Oh, this is slightly different.
Blackness and a
Oh.
rising chill of uncertainty.
Kind of.
Was it over? Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door.
I don't remember seeing my bucket last time.
Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
No, he wasn't. He was not happy. I don't know, my bucket went missing. Yeah, I didn't see it anywhere. Alright, what have we not done yet? Where's my bucket?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Stanley picked up the bucket and smiled. He'd never be alone again, not truly alone, not with the bucket around.
Okay, why?
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Okay, so I turned off the mind control machine, and because I had the bucket in my hand, they wouldn't let me go. Then I turned on the bucket machine, and I turned on the mind control machine. We were watching birds, so I already did that ending. Let's go this way.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the... No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
Let's see, I went that way, right? With the bucket? I think so. I went that way with the bucket.
And so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door.
Okay, what? I went down there that one time. No? I don't remember. Okay, yeah, I usually went down that way. Let's go this way. I don't remember doing this. Yeah, I don't remember going down here. I remember going straight.
Oh, good, Stanley. I'm glad you found your way here. I knew you'd find this place eventually.
Look at this. This is new. Why is there a broom closet down here?
You see, your friends and I are concerned for you, Stanley. We've come together here because we care about you very much. It's
What is
this
that?
bucket you're carrying around everywhere. The bucket isn't even from the original Stanley Parable. It's just sequel content. We're the ones that matter, Stanley. Classic characters from the first game, like the Adventure Line and the Broom Closet. Because that's what fans want from a sequel. They want more of their favorite jokes, not this bucket that they've never seen before. Yes, I know I'm the one who gave you the bucket, but you're spending too much time with it. Don't you want another story involving the Adventure Line? We could make the Adventure Line go somewhere new. Yes, yes, that's what the fans want. Let's do it.
Oh, something opened. Okay. Oh, there's a... This is definitely different.
Whee! Look at that wacky line. Who knows where it'll go off to next? Oh, and it played some silly music as well.
Oh no. Not that again. Hate that. Da 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 da. Da 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 da.
Now this is what the Stanley Parable is all about. Don't you remember all those great jokes from the original dialogue?
Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
It's as classic now as it was back then. Let's do it for the fans, Stanley. Let's give them more content exactly like this. But if we want to do that, you're going to have to give something up.
The bucket. Da 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 da. Uh-huh. He wants me to give up the bucket. Weird. This is more like it. More backroom stuff. Cool. It's another phone. Whoa.
Don't you get it, Stanley? We need to get rid of the bucket. That's why I'm very proud to introduce a brand new character. This is the Bucket Destroyer.
Whoa.
I think it'll make a wonderful new addition to the rich lore of the Stanley Parable. True, it also was not in the original game, but it's such a well-fleshed-out character with so much personality that to me it already feels as though it's been part of the cast all along. Don't you agree?
No.
Can you guess what the Bucket Destroyer does? Surely you don't need me to spell it out for you. Go ahead now, Stanley. Say goodbye to the bucket, and then pop it into the machine when you're ready. Now listen to me. It's crucial that you give it the bucket. I don't know what the Bucket Destroyer will do if it can't destroy your bucket. Destroying buckets is all it knows. That is its singular personality trait. Sure, I can hear you saying, how does a character with only one personality trait deserve to join the pantheon of beloved Stanley Parable characters? Well, you see, if you were to really explore the Bucket Destroyer, you would see that its desire to crush buckets is so densely loaded with complexity and nuance that it's really like 10 personality traits. What other object in this game can you even say that about? The Broom Closet? Certainly not. I wonder what sort of Bucket Destroyer merchandise the fans will be clamoring for after this. Okay, the Bucket Destroyer is getting very upset now. You'll have to hurry and feed it. We can't get back to the classic Stanley Parable characters like the Adventure Line or the Bucket Destroyer until you crush that damn bucket. Quickly now, the fans are waiting. Do it, the fans, Stanley. Give the fans what they want. Hurry and...
Oh my god. It blew up. Oh, broke the game. Am I dead?
The Bucket Destroyer. My prized creation. You had so much potential. We were going to do such marvelous things with you, tell such spellbinding stories about you. All of it squandered now. Goodbye, new friend. For the moment in time that you were here, you were magnificent.
Bye-bye, Bucket Destroyer. You suck. those Gregorian chants. Oh, this is different.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
Oh, my
Stanley
bucket.
decided the good old bucket. Just Stanley and the bucket. Off on another thrilling adventure together.
What's this? What? So different.
Stanley pressed the bucket upon every little thing in the office. Nothing responded to the bucket's touch, but it did little to discourage Stanley's belief in the magic of the bucket.
Welcome to the whiteboard ending. That's different. What? Dog mode? Dog mode. Oh my god. Interesting. Alright, we'll get the dog mode ending. That's funny. Dun 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 dun. I bet no one ever tried doing that. Whiteboard dog ending.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Okay, let's go back this way. Can I close this? Oh!
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be.
Alright, so we're going to go straight this time.
And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was it? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
Alright, I'm pretty sure I went that way already. With the bucket? I can't remember.
And so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door.
Down that way, so I don't want to do that again. Okay. What's this? Nothing. Hey.
Oh, Stanley, can you feel it? The broom closet. It wants the bucket. You can feel that, can't you?
Shut
the aura
up.
of jealousy. It's as clear as... Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
No. We've already done this, right? With the bucket, so... Nope, it doesn't work. I don't know what else to do. We still haven't found all the figurines.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Trying to think what else we haven't done that I need to try. What else have I not done? But see, I'm doing different things with the bucket, so get a different outcome. The bucket. What else have I not done with the bucket? I died with the bucket, didn't I?
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
See, I can't remember if I died with the bucket or not.
Had the word escape written on it.
So let's try this again.
That at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death.
I can't remember if I did this with the bucket or not.
The door behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
I did both endings.
At this point, Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
Yeah, I don't remember doing this with the bucket. I may have done this already, but I'm not sure. We'll see. I still have my bucket.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley and the bucket inched closer to their demise, Stanley reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be. To be sure, it puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket, but what use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is what Stanley thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket everywhere. Farewell, Stanley.
It stopped.
"Farewell, Stanley," cried the narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an end, as it was crushed violently to death.
That's an exaggeration.
It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that all buckets are radiant in their own way, but this one stood above the rest. It was a glorious bucket to behold.
Oh, this is different. Ode to the bucket. The bucket. Welcome to the grand exhibit. You are standing in the precipice of knowledge, much like a bucket itself. The human mind is frequently empty within a cavernous void, but through use of the exhibit in front of you, the mind becomes full, enriched, and substantiated. Knowledge of the bucket and its history is the only true knowledge we really have. Will you take what you learn here with you into the world? Will you accept with an open mind what may be challenging about the information in this exhibit? Will you change the lives of yourself and your loved ones as a result of the exhibit? Or will you turn a blind eye and continue to live as you were in the ignorance and darkness? Very cool. So this is all about the bucket. Weird.
Can you see how arrogant it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his own? Can you see the hubris that blinded him?
That's cool.
Can you see that the bucket is far more noble than Stanley will ever be in his short life?
That is a cool picture of a bucket, of all those buckets. Look at that. 25 buckets. A photograph of 25 buckets, the greatest number of buckets ever captured on camera. The photographer experienced catatonic shock for several weeks as a result of the euphoria from exposure to these many buckets at once. What's down here? Where's my bucket? Bucket with 2 handles? The bucket is depicted as having 2 handles, such as design has never been created in real life, having been deemed too dangerous and recklessly experimental. Every year, dozens are put to death just for attempting it. That's funny. Hey, the very first bucket. Inferno Bucket. A replica of the Inferno Bucket, which is the medieval era, was so powerfully alluring that it drove dozens of nations to war with one another for control of it. Billions died, and yet, in spite of it all, the simple fact remains: no one can control a bucket. The bucket. The stress bucket, an analogy of the stress bucket. Worrying, negative forecasting, negative thinking, lack of reassurance, the vulnerability, size, and strength of the bucket. Coping strategy holes. Stress, the levels of water in the bucket. Rest and relaxation, doing something you enjoy. Okay. Presented without commentary. Interesting. Tasha, Tasha. Whoa. Oh, 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 oh. Recta, oh, oh, recta, oh. The Stone Age. So instead of mammoths and saber-toothed tigers like in the Ice Age, it's the bucket. That's so funny. The becoming of the bucket. Cave drawing. While we know that buckets predate the existence of mankind, we do not know by how long. This cave drawing depicts early man's discovery of the practical uses of the bucket, by which time the bucket had already likely been around for several millennia. Notice in these drawings how the bucket is allowing itself to be used, having judged humanity to be worthy of its treasures. That's funny. Ooga chaka, ooga
No
chaka.
man can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is man who should kneel before the bucket.
Ooh. The hanging bucket. This piece symbolizes the necessary relationship between bucket and humanity. However clear or gasp of the bucket may be, there is yet more that is always out of reach. This distance inevitably is for our own good. Whoa. Can I? Oh, give me the bucket. I got the bucket. I got the bucket.
But there is something we can do. Something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong.
Oh.
Let Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine. Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket. We can save the world's buckets from their treatment as tools and implements if only we let Stanley die together. The bucket shall take its place as ruler, as leader, as commander of a new world, a new vision.
Ouch. That was an interesting ending. Okay, I think that's all of it. I'm not sure. That might be the last extra content, but I'm not sure. Okay. It says 11:20. I honestly,
Wait,
I really...
Stanley thought to himself. Am I sure that the orders stopped coming in?
Oh, please. Are you really just doing this for the trophy? Click
Oh,
a door 5 times? Is that all you think a trophy is worth? No. I can't just give these merits away for such little effort. A measly 5 clicks.
Yeah,
Now,
it's more than
suppose
5
you were to
clicks.
click the door 20 times. I would say that's the kind of effort that warrants recognition.
Yeah, doing that. Ah, my bucket. Figurine Finders Committee meeting today in the meeting room. I still haven't found them all. I'm missing 3, I think.
Where are we going today? The bucket asked. Stanley just smiled. Anywhere they went together would be perfectly fine with him.
Trying to think, where else can we go? What have I not done?
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
I can't remember.
And so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door.
Go back in the meeting room. Where are the other figurines at?
Oh, Stanley, can you feel it? The broom closet. It wants the bucket. You can feel that, can't you? The aura of... Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
We're doing the same crap. Yeah, we're doing the same thing. We've already done this before.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then, something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. He looked down at the bucket in his arms. Am I crazy? He asked the bucket. The bucket returned his gaze, but said nothing at all. That's strange, Stanley thought. Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom for me in difficult times such as these. He held the bucket close, yet felt none of its familiar reassurance and comfort. And that's when Stanley realized, this isn't my bucket. It's just a normal, everyday bucket. Someone else's bucket, perhaps. How did I end up with someone else's bucket?
Yeah,
This is all terribly wrong. Surely no good would come from this. Who knows what sorts of bizarre hallucinations Stanley might experience without the psychologically grounding presence of his bucket. And indeed, now he noticed that the rooms were repeating, which was, of course, very odd. And now he felt himself floating off the ground. Oh, gracious, he exclaimed. Without my bucket, I've gone truly mad. Where is it? I must find it. Far off in the distance now, he heard it, calling to him.
Stanley! Stanley, it's me, the bucket.
Could it truly be? He rushed forward from room to room, passing by one bucket after the next. None of them were his. None of them were his special bucket.
Come to me, Stanley. Find me.
He had to find the bucket. He had to return to his old friend. It was the only way to truly restore his sanity. And then suddenly, he froze dead in his tracks. He knew where the voice of the bucket had been coming from. The real bucket was inside of him all along. It was incredibly painful. Stanley doubled over in agony and blacked out.
Yeah, we've already seen this one already. I'm trying to think.
This is a story of a woman named Mariella.
Yeah, we already seen this.
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, picked up her bucket of comfort and security, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town, talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Right away, she knew what the problem was. This man had no bucket. Of course he'd gone mad, ranting and raving about a narrator describing all of his actions and how everything is predetermined and free will is an illusion and it's all just a video game. It could all have been prevented if only he'd taken his bucket with him. Perhaps he didn't even realize he'd forgotten his bucket at home in the first place. How cruel the world can be, Mariella thought, and she hugged her own bucket even tighter. But of course, she had no time for this. There were a myriad of confusing problems she would soon have to confront at work, for which her bucket would provide absolute guidance and total clarity on everything. Heck yes, she thought to herself, my life kicks ass. And she backflipped all the way to work.
Okay, so I think I did everything because I went upstairs to the boss's office. I did both directions. I even did the escape room. Yeah, I think I did everything. So I think that's it. That has to be it.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
I didn't collect all the figurines yet, though. That's the thing.
A good bucket, a strong bucket, a humble bucket, a committed bucket, a bucket of culture and distinction.
Stanley pressed the bucket upon every little thing in the office. Nothing responded to the bucket's touch, but it did little to discourage Stanley's belief in the magic of the bucket.
It opened up that one door. Yeah.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Trying to think. What have I done already with the bucket? See, I'm kind of confused right now. Go to the left. Go to the right. I went straight, and then I went... See, if I go straight, that just goes to the meeting room and upstairs, right? Yeah, it just goes to here.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
This is probably the same. Alright guys, I can't find anything else, so I'm just going to leave it here. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like the video. Hope you've enjoyed the Stanley Parable. I'm going to do some research and see if there's anything else, because I honestly can't find any more extra content. That's not the...
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always. The bucket would, and he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk.
nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Alright, so this is all the same. Alright guys, thank you for watching. See you guys in the next video. Peace out.